A group of protesters gathered outside of Parks Casino in Bensalem, Bucks County today to raise concerns about horses. The demonstration comes after another animal died at the race park. They say 38 horses died at Parks last year. The group is concerned about the welfare of the animals and is calling for state subsidies, which the protesters say Parks receives, to be redirected to local public schools. We've reached out to Parks Casino for comment, but so far we have not heard back.
Racing has death on their hands. Parks Racing has death on their hands.
Greed, profit, torture, pain. Parks Racing
is to blame.
Greed, profit, torture, pain.
Parks Racing is to blame. Parks has death on their hands. Parks has death on their hands. Parks Racing is to blame. Parks Racing is to blame. Horses die on racing tracks. 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 Horse racing should be banned. Horse racing should be banned. Horse racing should be banned. Death row. Kill for meat. Death row. Kill for meat. Death row. Kill for meat. Horses killed each year.
2,000 horses killed each year. 2,000 horses killed each year.
2,000 horses killed each year. They die. They die. They die. They die. They die. They die.
Parks Casino, shut them down. Parks Casino,
Shut them down.
Parks Casino,
Shut them down.
Horse racing,
Shut it down.
Horse racing,
Shut it down.
Horse racing,
Shut it down.
We are brainwashed by movies. They make these movies for little girls to watch, to normalize horse racing and horse abuse. They tell them that to love horses, you ride them, you whip them, you spur them. All horse riding is cruel. It's all based on learned helplessness.
There's really not much to say about this. It's pretty straightforward. Just go to the Horse Racing Wrongs YouTube channel and watch video after video after video of horses getting injured, dying. It's fucking just horrible. And if you're one of those people that is against the very basic and simple notion of horse racing being bad, go heal your trauma and stop continuing the cycles of abuse onto others. I used to ride horses for 10 years. I won't get into it because I have other videos that do. The playlist is linked. But because I used to ride horses, I was brainwashed by movies like Seabiscuit and Secretariat, and everyone I knew that rode horses was into glorifying racing and the amazing stories of people beating the odds and winning and the Triple Crown winning horses and all of that. And it just is terrible to look back on. I didn't put a lot of thought into it at the time. I knew horses died sometimes, but the mindset of horse riders and rodeo people and whoever else, whatever the discipline is that when an animal gets injured or dies or has to be euthanized from the sport, it's just an accident. And, that you can't say anything about an accident, just fully not accepting cognitively that they're the reasons the animals are there in the first place. It's no different than the animal farmers that, for example, the dairy farmers that say, well, I have to kill the male calves. What else am I gonna do with them? Are all the vegans gonna rescue them? Just completely refusing any responsibility that they bred the animals into existence in the first place and put them in that situation in the first place, and that they're the only reason that it even is a problem in the first place. But they just don't seem to cognitively have the ability to be honest about reality. Like they have trauma that prevents them on a brain chemistry level from seeing reality, and they almost have like no choice but to be deluded and to have cognitive dissonance. Or they're narcissistic abusers that knowingly use gaslighting tactics to deny reality and say things aren't happening that are, and all of that. I attended races at a local track a few times growing up in Colorado. I watched the big races on TV, like the Triple Crown ones, and I remember a few of them being killed, but I remember one named 8 Bells being killed. She fell over, broke her front legs at some part of them, and I remember like the following year they rang a bell 8 times to commemorate her, and thinking like, oh yeah, we're just all grieving. Oh, it's so sad that this happened. And it just not putting two and two together in my head. But of course, I myself was going out and beating the shit out of my horse. My family taught me to do that and bullied me if I didn't, yelling at me that I was letting the horse have his way. And eventually they weren't really as involved, and I just took it from there and made it just every next level worse. And competing on my horse and stuff eventually, and it's just this weird thing where you're in that mindset where they really are inanimate objects, and you really do get so identified with, your ego gets so enmeshed with competition and winning and proving yourself and overcoming the odds and having a great story to share from being the underdog or whatever. And that hopefully you haven't seen horse racing movies, but they're just especially bad at making it seem like this thing that's so glorified. And looking back, it's like the audacity to commemorate the death of an animal that you caused. You put that animal there in the first place. You bred them to existence. You did that to them. And how is it not obvious? Like, it's completely presented as something that is honoring the horses and praising them. But it's really like not. I would say most of the appeal of horse racing to me when I was a kid who was into horses and horse riding was that the horses were all so pretty. And you know, like Breyer horses were like these decorative statues / toys that were really expensive. They'd always make them modeled after racehorses, and they'd always look so cool in their running poses, and enjoying watching them run because they look so cool and pretty, and it's so exciting to see who wins. And horses love to run, but really, I mean, these horses are in a stall most of the day all the time, so of course they're going to be hyper and want to run technically when they get the chance to. But of course, horses would rather be running in a field without someone on their back and all this stuff, but that's the only choice they get. And they also panic all the time, like before or in the starting gate, and that's part of why they run too. And all the noise and the horses around them. It's not necessarily they're just having so much fun. It's more of like, I mean, have you ever witnessed animals when they're panicking? It's kind of more like that. Obviously, not to mention they're being whipped and all sorts of other things. I am intimately familiar with all the lies horse riders tell themselves, like when you ever hear them say, and they all say it, my horse loves his job. The only thing that means is my horse no longer fights back because he has learned helplessness so much that he knows if he doesn't do what I'm telling him to do, he's going to get lunged or whipped or somehow punished or disciplined or ran around. And, you know, that's what that means. This is not about judging people because I was once there. This is about saying, wake the fuck up. Face the reality, get rid of the delusions, get rid of all of the things in your brain that get in the way of you seeing reality, be it from trauma, from growing up in the culture and it being so normalized, likely both. I would probably say almost always both, because the two go together. People don't normally have an interest in overpowering animals unless they have some trauma and some lack of power within themselves. In fact, I would say there definitely is a connection between girls and women who are into competing on their horses and riding horses and them having been abused in like an overly dominating way to where they have been made weak and victimized, and then they get some sort of complex, like they want to take it out on someone who's not going to fight them back, or someone who does fight back, but if they can conquer them, then they can prove that they're tough or something. I've heard other stories of people with similar backgrounds to mine, and there's definitely a connection there. Like one or multiple things happened to them where they had no control, they were being controlled, they were being overpowered, and then so they want to kind of get some of that control and power back, and by conquering, dominating, and controlling horses. I've even heard male horse riding horse trainers talk about this phenomenon with these women who are so abusive to their horses and just lash out their rage onto them. And I was one of them. Like, you don't even know the half of it. I would get, and I know other people around me would get in these rage episodes where we would get so mad at the horse for not listening or not performing the way we wanted them to perform, and we'd make it totally about us and how it makes us look and how we wanted to get it right, how we wanted to win. And it was very much I'll show you who's boss. You're not gonna listen to me, well, you're gonna regret that. I can't even begin to explain it. And there's a lot of, oh, you're letting the horse have his way, being bullied for any ounce of sympathy or sensitivity or empathy for the horses. Oh, what are you, a crybaby? Get over it. It fills the horse riding girl with rage and the desire to prove that they are tough, that they do show the horse who's boss, so they inflict that rage onto the horse. But again, even if you're saying, well, I never did rodeo, I just did some trail rides, or I just rode a little in the arena and my trainer was nice and I was not taught extremely overtly abusive tactics, I didn't use a whip and blah, blah, blah. Well, the thing about that is that the horse was still trained based on the principle of learned helplessness, which means they just eventually learn they can't fight back and they have to submit over time. And if you think about what it takes to make a wild animal who doesn't want anything to really do with you turn into that, there's a lot that happens in between, even if you never witnessed it and you just showed up one day to riding lessons. Not to mention the fact that, the physical strains and injury risk and all sorts of stuff you have to think about. The fact that animals are usually bred, which increases the number of unwanted horses that are being sent to Canada and Mexico for slaughter. Just think about the logic and message behind the concept, adopt, don't shop. It applies to horses. I am writing a book that will go very deeper than you want, into detail on a lot of what I'm saying with the horse stuff and what contributes to causing the mindset to even enjoy or want to do that stuff to horses. And I'll let you know in the future when that book is available. Thank you to Rev Philly or Revolution Philadelphia for organizing this and for Horse Racing Wrongs. Go to horseracingwrongs.com. And don't forget, of course, all animal products and anything not vegan is unnecessary violence. Watch the free documentary Dominion, linked. It's free on YouTube. All evidence necessary proving we don't need animal products are also linked, the peer-reviewed science. Wake up, snap out of it, have empathy for others. How we treat others matters. Everything we do that affects others matters. I just want to add, I'm obviously against the genocide in Gaza. I'm anti-all war, strictly unless it is literally just self-defense. And I don't understand war at all. I also believe in humans all being the same. I don't believe in nationalism or separation or siding with one country or even siding with one political candidate or any of that shit. I think it's all nonsense. I'm much more of a do without the corrupt leaders and have a peaceful anarchy type of person. But yeah, obviously don't support genocides. That's pretty fucking basic, right?